AEW could have some fans no-show tonight's Dynamite. The reason WWE changed King and Queen of the Ring plans, tensions between WWE and France, and more. I'm Luke Owen, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
WWE announced they would be introducing their first single women's mid-card title to their NXT ranks recently at Battleground with the NXT Women's North American Championship, and on last night's show, they revealed who would be competing to be the first to win that prestigious prize. 12 wrestlers were named as a result of NXT Combine, and those 12 will square off in singles matches, with the 6 winners going on to a ladder match at Battleground. The women include Sol Ruka, Thea Hale, Jada Parker, Brynlee Reese, Fallon Henley, Lash Legend, Izzy Dame, Tatum Paxley, and Ren Sinclair, alongside main roster stars Mia Yim and Ivy Nile, and the recently called up Kalani Jordan. Elsewhere on the show, Wesley had his first match back since injury, beating Josh Briggs. Shayna Baszler beat Carmen Petrovic. The family messed with No Quarter Catch Crew by assigning Stax as the special guest referee in their tag match. Mia Yim beat Ariana Grace, Fallon Henley beat Kalani Jordan, Lexis King beat Duke Hudson, and Roxanne Perez retained her NXT Women's Championship against Chelsea Green. There had been rumors that Green would reunite with her NXT manager Mr. Stone, especially since the release of Von Wagner, but instead they just had a nod of recognition before the main event. Corey Brennan of Fightful Select also reports that Shawn Spears produced 2 of the NXT Level Up matches that were taped last night, and Fightful Select also reported that NXT ring announcer Alicia Taylor will be heading to SmackDown to replace Mike Rome, who will be heading to NXT to replace Alicia Taylor. Peeling back the curtain somewhat, I spent like 5 minutes trying to find a way to segue into the next story, but everything I tried just blew up in my face. Speaking of Dynamite, Wile E. Coyote segue! Tonight's AEW Dynamite will take place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, a place I know because I've heard wrestlers be announced as coming from there, and they've stacked it with Canadian power. It will feature Canadian Adam Copeland defend his TNT Championship against Brody King, Canadian Christian Cage confront Swerve Strickland, and Canadian Kenny Omega will have an important update following his attack by the Elite last week. I'm also sure we'll see Kyle O'Reilly and Renee Paquette on the show plenty to up the Canadianness. But it could be the Canadianness of Canada that could cause caution for tonight's show, as there was one thing AEW could not have planned for: sports! Because while a Stanley Cup match is taking place in Vancouver with the Canucks, they will be taking on the Edmonton Oilers. And I don't want to presume that everyone watching the show knows a lot about Canada, but here is something that you should know. Canada bloody loves their hockey. But before we get into the rest of that, first here's a clip from our latest episode of TLC, where our own Canadian representation Tempest was going through his top 10 worst finishes when he discovered something interesting about Sullivan's phone.
I have a real gripe with this era of WWE's women's wrestling. This is the Total Divas era, where all of a sudden you had one woman whose finisher was named after her breasts, which is Nikki Bella, and the Rack Attack. Get it?
Oh, Siri!
Didn't catch that.
I said it was the Rack Attack, Siri!
No, it's still listening.
Sullivan's phone heard the word breasts.
It's what's
that? Please, I must look this up.
He's renamed Siri to Breasts.
Breast? Okay, breast. Set a timer for 12 minutes.
And this one was named after a bum.
No, that would get the other Siri.
Tits. Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, AEW Dynamite. The Edmonton Oilers game was not announced when AEW booked this episode of Dynamite, so it's not exactly something they could prepare for in advance. And the worry is now fans could no-show Dynamite and instead go to a watch party for the Stanley Cup game instead. And it is a big watch party, with Meltzer explaining on Wrestling Observer Radio there's going to be an event in Edmonton right next to the show where AEW is, and there's going to be 20,000 1,000 people for a watch party for the game. And it's not just Dave Meltzer, as Jimmy Van of Fightful adds that Rogers Place, where Dynamite is being held, usually does these watch parties for Oilers away games. He adds obviously they can't due to AEW, but the game will undoubtedly impact ticket sales here. This all presents two problems for those going to the shows. If people leave when the show finishes, they'll hit traffic from the watch party and be late home to catch up on the game. The alternative is to wait until the end of the Ring of Honor tapings to avoid that traffic, but again, be late home to catch up on the hockey. The third alternative is to leave during the show to beat the traffic and get home in a good time to catch up on the game. Meltzer adds it's not like when people bought tickets, they knew there'd be this game, so I could see people no showing that have tickets, and I could see people leaving early to get home and see the game. WrestleTalk are reporting that around only 350 tickets were available for tonight's show, so it was close to being a sellout for the promotion. So, as always in these scenarios, AEW is not to blame, Canada is. Speaking of ticket sales, and WWE boasted about their Backlash results after the show, noting it was their biggest arena gate in WWE history. In layman's terms, that means they made the most money from ticket sales at any event they've done in an arena ever. This was, according to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, due to the average ticket price being around $300. WWE's international shows, which have seen them do pay-per-views in Wales, England, and Australia, and in the next few months will be heading to Scotland and Germany, have been a great financial success for the company. Not only because they charge a lot for the tickets, but also because the tourism boards for those places pay WWE to do their shows in those countries. The same can be said for Puerto Rico, who reportedly paid WWE $1.5 million to do Backlash last year. WWE wanted to originally run Clash at the Castle in London in 2022, but the Welsh Tourism Board actually offered them money to do it, so they did it there instead. So it was presumed that this year's Backlash would be a similar story, but not so according to Post Wrestling, who report that neither the Lyon metropolis nor the region's authorities gave a cent to the company. And perhaps the reason for this is because Lyon was not WWE's original choice for Backlash, as Post Wrestling add that WWE actually wanted to do the show in Paris, the country's capital and most famous city. However, like AEW Dynamite tonight, WWE hit upon a problem. Sports! As anyone who watched this year's Great British Menu will know, hands up those in the comments who did watch this year's competition, that Kirk's awesome, isn't he? Paris is hosting this year's Olympics. And because of that, according to Post Wrestling, with the Olympic Games less than 100 days away, not one building was willing to accommodate them for a 4-day stop, counting 2 days for installation and disassembly. This might be why WWE agreed to host the show for free in Lyon, as they wanted to do the show internationally but could not get a fee for doing so because of the Olympics. This won't be the case for Clash at the Castle 2 or Bash in Berlin later this year, and newly re-elected Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has said that he does want to bring WrestleMania to London, presumably for a very big fee. Sticking with WWE, and this week's Raw saw the 2024 King and Queen of the Ring tournament kickoff with aplomb, featuring 2 certified bangers, with Gunther beating Sheamus and Ilya Dragunov beating Ricochet to advance. However, the tournament wasn't without its issues, as 4 of the announced 8 matches were either changed due to injury or scheduling issues. Both Drew McIntyre and Asuka were pulled from the tournament, with both being announced as injured. Fightful Select confirmed that Asuka's injury is legit and not a work. Nia Jax took to social media to praise Asuka for working live events and TV tapings while being hurt. On top of that, the matches between Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio versus Kofi Kingston were moved off Raw and will instead be taking place at house shows this weekend. According to Fightful Select, this was a very last-minute decision, as the participants for at least one of the matches that got moved off of Raw found out the day of. The reason these matches were removed from the show itself was a timing one. It would have seen Raw have 8 matches, which would be the most wrestling matches on an episode of Raw in history. As to why they're being done this weekend rather than Raw next week, say, Fightful Selects were told there wasn't enough time between now and the PLE to do so. Fightful were also told the plan is to air highlights on next week's WWE Raw and possibly social media. However, they also add that could be adjusted or changed. Lastly for today's show, and we're going to circle back to AEW and that angle they did a couple of weeks ago where the Elite laid out Tony Khan, who has since been written off TV following taking the TK driver. It led to a lot of speculation that this could lead to TK becoming a regular on-screen character, or even worse, stepping into the ring for a match. However, in speaking with Cincy360, Tony Khan has downplayed this idea, saying AEW is where the best wrestle, and we mean that. In this case, I'm not the best person to pay those people back. After what happened to me last time, I don't think I'd be making a smart move trying that. Now go and watch that episode of TLC where our heroes count down the top worst 10 wrestling finishers of all time.